Welcome to another day in the Haven, dreamy people. Today, we welcome debut author Joretta King, who's here to discuss her memoir, Bleach On Colored Clothes. Joretta enjoys reading books about self-esteem, healing, and love, and decided to write one about her life, which is truly, truly inspiring. Her book, Bleach On Colored Clothes, started as a childhood diary and her observations at that age. As she worked through her struggles, she used writing as a tool of self-reflection and healing. She's written a beautiful story about her journey, and I'm happy to have her on the show to talk about that process. So, with that, join me in welcoming author Joretta King.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Haven.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, it is a true, true pleasure to meet you and to have you on the show to talk about your book, to talk about your process for writing it. But first, I want to start with that book title because I love your book title.
Thank you.
Talk to me about it. How did you come up with that title?
It came to me in a dream, honestly, and I've told that story over and over again. When I first started writing and I was so focused on a title, and I worked with two different titles. They were just working titles, and I really wasn't satisfied, 100% satisfied with those titles. And so I just said, you know what, just leave the title alone for a minute, because the class I was in at that time, the instructor said sometimes the title will come to you at the end when you finish. So I just said, you know what, leave it alone. And then one night, went to bed, had this dream. It was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and in the dream I was sitting on the floor sorting through clothes, and there was bleach all over the clothes, and I woke up and something said, which I say God said, that's the title of your book.
Wow.
Bleach On Colored Clothes.
That is an amazing story.
Yes.
So let me ask you this, because I am so curious to hear your answer to this question. When did you start writing it?
I started in a diary. I started writing my diary at 5, 6 years old, just jotting down things as I experienced, witnessed things happening, and just was journaling at that age, you know, just writing in the diary.
Not, of course, realizing at 5 years old that you were writing a memoir
absolutely.
at the age that you are
yes,
now.
Yes, yeah.
So you started writing, was it a therapeutic kind of thing for you at that age, or was it writing just to be, you know, a childhood's curiosity?
More curiosity at that time, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So was there anything that inspired it, or, well, you were journaling, so you were writing about things that were happening in your personal space as a child?
Yes.
Okay, and to some degree it was therapeutic.
It was.
So at what point did you decide that, you know what, I'm going to take this journal, this body of work, and turn it into a memoir?
Throughout my life, that was always something that was in my spirit, that I was supposed to write a book. And there were times when I didn't want to do it. I said I wasn't going to do it, but it was just that nagging feeling that just said, you have to write this book. So I didn't know, and there were stages. So when I first took it seriously and wanted to write it was probably around 2012, and I just couldn't make it happen. There were just so many obstacles in the way, and I just couldn't do it. And I said,
first
you know
of all, I'm intrigued that something that you started writing at 5 years old, in you said 2012?
Yeah, 2012 was
you pulled that from the archives. You held on to those writings, and you know, so far you've been talking about how a higher authority has, you know, basically entered in and had some input into your whole process, from, you know, naming the book to writing, always wanting to write as a young person, and then it just all kind of came together. So that's very intriguing, interesting, and inspiring as well.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
So in 2012, you took that collection and said, I'm going to put this together. And did it start as a memoir for you, or were you looking at other genres of writing?
It was always a memoir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't realize there was going to be more I had to say. I was like, okay, this is it. Now is the time. Let's go ahead and get it done. But again, had some obstacles, things happened, and I just felt like I just wasn't ready, and I just put it aside and said, you know what, I'm not ready to do this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But okay. So let's talk about that for a minute, because you really open up in this book. You really, really show your soul, your spirit, your experiences, and that's a frightening place, or can be a frightening place to be. What gave you the strength and the courage to put pen to paper, take those stories, complete your memoir, and put it out in the world for everyone that you know to read and hear and experiencing it as they're reading it?
It came from reading other memoirs written by other people. One of my favorite authors, Toni Morrison, one of her quotes is, if there's a book that you want to read that hasn't been written yet, then you must write it. And I've always read memoirs by other people whose lives were similar, who went through similar things I'd gone through, and just wanted to see, well, how did they overcome that? And so I got courage from them, but then it was always that still small voice that just would not go away, that just kept telling me, you have to do this. You have to write it. Yeah.
Okay. And so the idea of what people might think of me if they read this wasn't something that really entered your headspace.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, it was.
Okay. But you trudged on.
I did.
You didn't change the names to protect the innocent.
I changed some of the names have been changed.
You did.
Yeah.
Some of the names have been changed, but people will relate it to you in your circle of people. And the reason why I asked, did you think of other genres? Because I'm sure that there are instances where, I mean, I think as writers, there's a piece of us that are in our characters already. And of course, there are characters that are based on other people that we know, of course. So it's easy to get lost behind the characters, right? But in a memoir, you're putting yourself on Front Street, right then and there. So I applaud you for having the courage to open up and to do that and really just kind of expose it. And tell me why. Tell me why. What inspired you to do this book, publish it, put it out to the world? What is it that you want to see come out of that experience?
Thanks for asking that. So, of course, you know, my book is based on a lot of trauma and a lot of dysfunction, a lot of abuse. And I've spoken to so many women and men who have gone through the same thing, but they can't talk about it, or they don't feel comfortable or feel like they have the freedom to talk about it. And by sharing my story, I see that it has already given other people who have contacted me privately and told me their stories about things they have gone through and how now they want to share their story, they want to tell what happened. And that typically happens whenever someone comes out with something that is looked at to be shameful or disgraceful, embarrassing. And for me, it was liberating. It was a sense of relief of carrying that burden, carrying that shame. And also, you know, I also go into telling the story of how I repeated some of that same behavior. So that was something that I thought was different from other books. Not that everybody has to repeat or will repeat the abuse, but I felt like by being that transparent and telling that story of how I repeated some of those same things that were done to me allows other people to, like they say, you know, break those chains.
Yes. That's very, very powerful. The self-awareness that comes with that is truly, truly inspiring. I don't want to dilute that point at all. Not just as a writer, but as a reader reading it, because we all fall short, right? We all make mistakes, and sometimes we make the same mistake over and over again. But where where it comes to a place and a sense of self-awareness is usually the place of healing.
Right.
Like if you can be aware of it and own it, then you can do something about it. But if you just keep denying it, pushing it off, then it's very difficult, if not challenging, to try to change the course.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about your process for writing.
Okay.
So you said in 2012 that's when you decided, okay, I'm going to look at this seriously. And I'm going to make this into a book. And when did you publish it?
It was May of this year.
Okay. And so was there something significant about the timing?
Not really significant. It was just it just needed to be done.
So the pandemic, COVID, it had nothing to do with why you're like, life is short, I need to get my book out there. Nothing like that.
No,
it was just
because there was still that part of me that was still wanting to delay it and procrastinate.
Okay.
And said, well, you know what? Why don't you wait until this happens? Because I think, and that's with anything, we tend to want to wait until the timing is right, and there really is no right timing.
Yeah, and sometimes there are things that happen in our life that causes that shift to moving to, what, I got to get this done. And that's why I brought up, pandemic, COVID.
Right.
So for some people that was a driver. Right. But I'm happy to hear that. No, I mean, it was your own time clock, and you just decided this is when I'm going to do it, and May was the time that it came out and blessed the world. Yes. So we appreciate that. So
thank you.
Your process, I'm very intrigued to find out the answer to this question because you wrote it at such a young age. In 2012, you looked at your writings, and I'm assuming that you added more flavor to it. So you whereas you were telling it from a young teenage mind or young person, child's mind on up through to how old were you when you finished? When you stopped writing in your journal, how much material did you have?
Gosh, I was probably. I wrote in my journal all the way up until I was about 19, 20.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So you went back from 5 to 19, those years, and then you just from the age that you are now, and I'm not going to ask you to divulge your age, from the age that you are now, of course you've gone through life experiences as an adult, and you're looking back on this, and so you colored it with some more bleach, and then came up with the finished product. So what was the process that you used in delving into your memoir and getting it to completion?
I found this amazing book in the thrift store, and it's by an author named Ralph Keyes called The Courage to Write. Okay. And I was trying to, when I was in a writing class, we were told that we need to obviously stick to a certain schedule every day and make sure we write that same time every day. Try to find whatever place gives you, the creativity to write, or because some people can write anywhere. And some people say, oh, I need to go by the lake, or I need to go in a cabin, or I need to lock myself in a room. So I was trying to find out, okay, well, how can I commit to that schedule every day when, of course, things happen. Right. And I found that the best time for me to write was really late at night, because I didn't have all the noise, from wanting to answer my phone or respond to a text message or email, or having to do something for my son. And, of course, everything is still, so I found that was the best time for me to write, late at night. In the book, Ralph Keyes talked about some of the most popular writers. And as I was reading that book, I realized, okay, the anxiety that I'm having, the fear that I'm having, afraid of how people are going to react to this, worrying about, did I use the right word choice? All those things is what some of our best writers go through. So he talked about E.B. White, who he said he hated writing. He thought his writing wasn't any good. and he always worried over every word, and he just didn't want Charlotte's Web. He really didn't want that published, and you see what happened with that.
Yeah,
and
it's a national treasure.
Yeah. So as I'm reading that book, and I'm finding, okay, well, this really is what all writers experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the process for me was just to write. And as I'm reading other people's advice on, or other writers' advice on writing, and Anne Lamott, another favorite author of mine, and her advice is just to go get it out, and you know what she says about your first draft being
trash.
Yeah.
Put it mildly. Put it mildly.
But just to get it out.
Yeah.
So,
vomit on the page.
Yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
go back and clean it up.
Yeah.
And allow that process to
Yes.
work itself through.
Yes.
Because some people see the vomit and they're like, I'm not cleaning that up. And so like 2 years later, that's when they're going back to their manuscript.
Yeah.
So you self-published.
Yes.
This book. Tell me some of the challenges that you faced in self-publishing it.
Well, one, just not even knowing what to do first. There's a lot of information out there, obviously, and just not understanding, okay, what all goes into self-publishing and what is really self-publishing. And so I was advised by another self-published author years ago that you want to own your ISBN number, and so that was the advice she gave me. And so the process for me, it was sometimes frustrating. It was really scary because I had no idea how the whole manuscript gets uploaded. What's the difference between Ingram Spark and Create Space? And if you go through Ingram Sparks, does that mean you have to have just an ebook? Can you have the Kindle and the ebook? So there were a lot of information that I didn't know about that I had to research.
Yeah. And it can seem daunting as a self-published author to navigate that whole thing.
Right.
So to have a company, because you went through a not on demand, but you went through a publishing company that self-published it for you.
Yes.
And then just really trusting those folks who do know the industry to just kind of navigate that for you. I understand why you would do that. So what was most enriching about the process?
Oh, it was just really seeing it finally come into life. Yeah, just getting to the point where you have everything uploaded and you've gone back and you've looked at it, and just finally getting the finished product in my hands and actually holding the book.
And it's a beautiful book too. I
Thank
love
you.
the way that. What did you have some say in the design of it?
I did. Well, there was a lady who designed the cover, and she showed me different designs, and that was the one we all agreed on. Yeah.
Okay. So, tell what advice would you give to new authors who are looking to write a memoir? You've been there, done that now. So speak to our new authors who are looking to write a memoir. What advice do you have for them?
And I've had people who have asked me about writing and wanting to write a book. My advice would just, first of all, as an author, and I hear this a lot, and I think a lot of people focus too much on the book being a bestseller. They want to be New York Times bestseller. And what I've told people is that being a bestseller does not mean that you have a great book.
Okay, then. Immediately some books came to mind. I mean, some books that got grammatical errors in it. I mean, books that have been optioned into films. Okay, I'm not going to say names. I'm not going to say names.
I know.
I had television series.
Yes.
Hold up, look, my writer friends out there know who I'm talking about. But anyway, go ahead.
So, because really, what makes a bestseller is that obviously people who understand the algorithm, and they know, and of course, when obviously celebrities write their books, they obviously have that window of time where they have to get all these sales. So a bestseller it just means that a certain amount of books have sold. A lot of books have sold within a short period of time, and that makes it a bestseller.
Yeah, so it's all about the marketing.
Yeah,
and of course, if you're a known author, and people are waiting, especially these authors that send out a book once a year, and so you're like waiting for the next book. So you're absolutely right. That's how it happens.
So that's my advice: is not to focus so much on it being a bestseller, but focus on just writing a really good book. Just writing a book that people can relate to, people can resonate with, and just being honest, just being authentic, being transparent. Because readers can feel that. They can feel when you're holding back. And not trying to imitate another author, not trying to sound like somebody else. Just find your voice.
Now you had mentioned that before 2012, when you decided to get serious about it, the years in between, you're like, you weren't really. You wanted to write a book. But you really weren't motivated to write the book. So what happened in 2012, or what advice to these new authors could you give about getting over that, not having any motivation, and to just actually sitting down and doing it?
And that's something that you will have to, that will always be a challenge, just staying motivated. Because things are gonna happen, life is gonna keep happening. And that's what I had to realize, because throughout, and that's why I kept stopping, because things kept happening, that I thought that, okay, you know what, I had a death in the family, I can't write. Legal stuff came up with some people, and I'm like, oh, I can't write. And obviously ailments, sicknesses, everything, financial things happen, and I can't write. And I kept saying, well, when this is over with, I'm gonna write. And then I overcame that, and then something else happened.
So they were excuses.
Yeah, they were excuses. They were excuses. Yeah, so the motivation, you have to surround yourself with other people who are doing the same thing.
Yes.
Because people can give advice, and we obviously have gotten advice from people who have no clue of how things work. And so they try to tell you, oh, well, you need to do this and this and this, but I'm thinking, okay, well, where's your book? What's the name of your book?
Call them out.
So just staying motivated, it's just, you're gonna have to force yourself, because if that's something that you truly, truly want to accomplish and to get done, you'll get it done. Amidst all the chaos and everything else that's going on.
Right. Yeah. So with memoirs, many times there are, the people that are attached to it, who may not necessarily want to be attached to it, but they were part of your experience, so they are. Have you come across any challenges related to that aspect of it?
Yes. Okay. I have. I have,
Okay.
of course, with family members,
Okay, well, we don't have to go into any detail,
Yeah.
but for those who are writing memoirs, and that's not to make them have a second thought about, because first and foremost is your experience,
Exactly.
and that person was just kind of attached to it, but they shouldn't feel derailed or deterred from writing their experience in their life.
Right.
They just have to be ready for. That other stuff that comes with it.
Absolutely. And one of the other things that Ralph Keyes mentioned in his book, when he talked about writing, whether it's a novel, memoirs, especially memoirs, because you'll have people who will get upset that you mention their names or talked about some things. And it doesn't have to be anything negative. Some people get mad because you didn't. You did.
There's that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are the things too that you will run into, is that, oh, well, why didn't you say this about me, or why did you say that? Or
that wasn't how I remembered that happening.
Right.
And I need more credit and some royalties from your book.
Right.
Yeah, I tell you, it's all kind. I haven't personally experienced it. I have talked to a few other authors who have, and it's more than a notion. But you're handling it.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. You're making sure that first and foremost, your story is out there, your voice is out there, and along those lines, what's next?
I get asked that a lot, and you know, I honestly, when I finally published this book, I wanted to take on a life of its own, do whatever it's supposed to do, because I didn't have honestly any real expectations other than to share my story and hope that other people will be inspired by it. But if I had to want anything from it, is to maybe reach out to younger women, younger girls and boys, and to help them, show them that if they're going through anything, if they're experiencing anything, just to give people a voice to just be strong enough to share whatever it is that they're going through. Possibly a nonprofit of some sorts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking engagements.
Yeah, that's something I still have to work on.
I'm just putting that out there for you.
Thank you. But yeah, definitely, I can see that as well.
I can definitely see that too, because that the subject of your book, of your memoir, is something I think that resonates with women.
Yes.
Very, very, very highly. So. I wish you the best on your speaking tour. I want to hear all about it. I want to hear about your next book, and I want to see you back in the Haven.
Okay, absolutely. I've been asked about a follow-up book. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I want to be the first on your long list of people who are going to be contacting you. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you, dream catchers, for tuning in and being a big part of why we do this. It is my hope that you are inspired in your own writer's journey, and that this season will inspire you to continue and finish. You can stream us on any of our 9 streaming platforms, including iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and the #1 network in the continent, American Legacy Network. For more information on where to tune in to our broadcast or podcast, visit our website at www.writershavenshow.com. And you can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Author V. Helena. That's all for now. And until next time, catch fire on purpose.